Drake is known by many as the biggest artist in the world, but even the best artists are not without their inspirations. Throughout the course of his career, Drake has shown his face a multitude of times in dancehall culture, collaborating with its artists and showing support.
Addy me daddy, free up world boss.
And also even getting into a beef with Mavado himself. However, there are many people who also think that Drake is nothing more than a culture vulture, using the sound for his own benefit, as he has often been accused of doing with other people's works in the past. Which leads us to wonder, what is Drake's mysterious connection to dancehall? Well, to answer this question, we have to first examine where Drake is from. Despite the fact that Drake occasionally uses patois in his lyrics, unlike Rihanna or Nicki Minaj, he's actually not from here. Drake is from Toronto, Canada, and despite the fact that Toronto is where it is, due to the fact that it's a city widely inhabited by Caribbean people, a lot of Jamaican culture is actually present in that area. Now, this should explain his exposure to certain cultures, but there's just one problem. The entire start of his career, he showed no signs of involvement with the genre in his music. Not until 2010, with the release of the song Find Your Love, that dropped with a music video that features none other than the legendary artist himself, Mavado. The two became friends and worked together on more music, with Mavado even bringing Drake out to Jamaica for a performance in 2011. And of course, the fans went wild. However, somewhere along the line, tension started to form between them, and it's being speculated that this was around the time that Drake started to associate himself with Popcaan, who of course is a member of the Gaza camp. For those who don't know, Gaza and Gully, which are Vybz Kartel and Mavado's respective fan bases, are sworn enemies, and the hatred between them became so real that fans were actually killing each other in the streets, so much so that the Prime Minister himself had to intervene, force the artists to come together and squash the beef. So it's no surprise that when Drake and Popcaan started getting closer around 2016, that things would probably turn sour with the Gully God. But 2016 would actually mark an important year for Drake and dancehall, because that's when he actually dropped one of his most notable dancehall inspired songs, Controlla, which is literally one of the biggest songs of all time to this day. However, what people don't know about this global mega hit is that Popcaan was actually featured on the original song. The original Controlla leaked right before the album dropped, and it was 6 minutes long with a verse from Poppy. But for whatever reason, the verse was removed when the original version was released. Regardless though, Drake and Popcaan would continue to make songs, with just a year later them dropping the song My Chargie, and also shouting him out on numerous songs like Blem, where he says unruly madness, and also using Popcaan's voice as an ad-lib on the song No Telling. And all this continued until Popcaan actually ended up signing to Drake's record label OVO in December of 2018. Now of course, I highly doubt this is the sole reason for the tension between Mavado and Drake, as they had a friendship of their own. But regardless of the reason why they cut ties, there was never actually going to be a musical war, not until Drake started it. It was July of 2020 when UK artist Heady One released a song called Only You Freestyle, featuring none other than Drake. And at a random point in the song, Drake decided to take aim at his previous collaborator and say the words, "Nigga want peace like cassava, but we let bridge them burn like grabber," making reference to Mavado's home, Cassava Peace, and saying that he will burn the bridge that runs over the infamous gully of the community, but also making a play on the words burn bridge to say that their friendship has ended. It was from this point on that Mavado wasted no time, and he was ready for war. And just 3 days after the release of that song, Mavado posted an Instagram caption saying, "From ya look clout, a copper to your mouth," and everybody knew exactly who he was talking about, which made the fans excited to see what might happen next. But I don't think anyone predicted that it would begin the birth of an international clash, because just a week later, Mavado released the brand new song called Enemy Line, and the Jamaicans went insane. The song was crazy, with people making whole YouTube videos just to discuss how crazy it was.
Popcaan was really Mavado back in the day, when Mavado was the man. Find Your Love, you can't even find videos
Popcaan.
when them there. Yeah, as in where Popcaan relationship with Drake now, was Mavado's relationship with Drake.
Saying lyrics like, "Tell soft and fake little sheep, little Mormon, die trying, but you will never be a yard man." And on the chorus, saying that Drake doesn't know anything about real crime and that his only experience with it was producing the TV show Top Boy. The entire song was just full of pure violence, but surprisingly, Drake actually did not respond, and just 14 days later dropped another song with Popcaan called Twist and Turn, which was just a regular whining song for the ladies and had literally nothing to do with the beef, almost as if to say he just doesn't care. And hey, maybe he didn't care. Which leads us back to the question of if Drake actually embraces the genre or if he's just using it for some sort of monetary gain. After all, two of his biggest songs, Controlla and One Dance, his biggest song of all time, are literally on dancehall beats. Well, funnily enough, Drake has actually already addressed this on a very popular interview on his channel from 2019, where he basically said that whenever he dabbles in a new genre like dancehall, he always pays due respects. And all of the real G's in the space respect him.
I mean, musically, like when it comes to criticism, like you said, mentioned earlier, how some people might say, hey, Drake's appropriating this culture of music or, you know, for your own personal gain. How do you feel about those kind of critiques?
The definition of appropriating a culture is not supporting that culture, doing songs with people who are deeply rooted in that culture, giving opportunity to people who are in that culture. That's not appropriating. Appropriating is taking it for your own personal gain and denying that it was ever inspired from this. That's the true disservice that somebody could do to the UK, to dancehall, to Afro beats. Me, I've always, anytime I embark on one of those journeys, I ensure that I'm not only paying all due respects verbally, but like I make a point to give opportunity to people that I respect, you know?
It seems like that's like been a constant theme throughout all of your albums. Like you give a lot of new artists looks.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, again, I'm not one of those people that can be inspired by something and be like, oh, well, that was inspiring, thanks. And then like just move on with it, like, you know, under my arm, like running down the field. I gotta like, you know, at least honor the person that handed me off the football before I ran for the touchdown. You know, I definitely feel like because when I do things, they do get magnified and amplified, people can sometimes feel uncomfortable, like, oh, no, One Dance goes #1, and now all of a sudden, you know, this Afro-inspired. But it's like, yeah, but like, you know, WizKid was on the song with me, and like, you know, I had blessings from like the real dons in that space, you know? I know those guys, I link with those guys, I go to their shows, they come to my shows, they touch my stage. So it's like, you know, the chatter is one thing, but in the community, amongst the real G's that are really doing this shit, I'm solidified for sure. You can ask anybody, nobody's gonna sit there and say, yeah, like anybody that with real respect that's in any of these communities you're talking about, any of these genres, nobody's gonna be like, yeah, you know, it's gonna be the guys that are like, you know, that didn't get the look, you know, or guys that like are no longer even relevant in that space, but they have a radio interview that day and they wanna be like, oh yeah, Drake, yeah, him doing Jamaican music is whack, you know, but it's like, they're also mad that OVO signed Popcaan. They're also mad that I was building with Mavado back in the day. They're mad that, you know, I link with this person and that person and not them. Right. So, you know, some people also feel it. You can always tell when it's personal.
And he has a point, because think about how many international fans and global stages have been exposed to dancehall because of his involvement with Popcaan and other elements of the genre. But all of that aside, since the beef with Mavado, Drake continued to drop multiple songs with Popcaan and other artists, showing his face in dancehall a multitude of times, like celebrating the release of Vybz Kartel, having Skillibeng perform at his birthday party, and also actually previewing a new song with him just a few months ago. But speaking of the release of Vybz Kartel, if you want to learn the full story of how he ended up in jail in the first place and how he somehow managed to get out against all odds, click the video on your screen right now to learn the full story. And as always, the dancehall has been decoded.